Namaste and good evening. Welcome to the Vedanta Society of Greater Houston and our class on the Bhagavad Gita. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena gratitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitam Ritavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Ambatvam Anusandadhami Bhagavad Gite Bhavadveshinim Vasudeva Sutan Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yatkripa Tamaham Vande Paramananda Madhavam. Om, O Mother Bhagavad Gita, we meditate on you who were made known to Partha, Arjuna, by the Lord Narayana himself. You who were included in the Mahabharata by the ancient sage Vyasa. You, the goddess who rains down the nectar of Advaita, non-dualism, in 18 chapters. You, the destroyer of relative existence. We worship Krishna, world teacher, the son of Vasudeva, the supreme delight of his mother Devaki, and the slayer of the demons Kamsa and Chanura. We adore that supremely blissful Madhava, Krishna, by whose grace the mute are made eloquent and the lame are enabled to cross over mountains. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat. Om peace, peace, peace be unto us all. So this evening we will take up the Bhagavad Gita where we left off last time. And so we are on chapter 18 and to begin on verse 57 of chapter 18. So tonight and then next Tuesday, we will have the Gita class, but next Tuesday looks like that will be the concluding class of the Gita. As I've said many times, the Gita, you never finish studying the Gita, but we will finish this course of study of the Gita. It's something to be studied for the whole of one's life, and one keeps uncovering more and more meaning in it as one studies it. But this study will conclude next Tuesday, and then we will take up the study of the Upanishads after that. So in what immediately preceded this verse 57, Sri Krishna was speaking about the one who is perfected and one who has surrendered all to him. So let me just read quickly from verse 54 through 56, just the translation. One who has become Brahman and has become pure-minded does not grieve, nor does he crave. Becoming the same towards all beings, he attains to supreme devotion to me, that is, to God. Through devotion, he knows me in reality as to what and who I am. Then, having known me in truth, he enters into me immediately. And 56, one to whom I am the refuge, even while he remains ever engaged in actions, he attains the eternal, immutable state through my grace. So even when engaged in action, such a one attains to the immutable and eternal state. So that's what went immediately before this. And now in verse 57, he says, and let me say that these verses tonight we'll try to take 57 through 66, that these are some of the most beautiful and oft repeated verses of the Gita. They're full of devotion. In chapter 2 and some of the other chapters, they're full of the highest knowledge. And this chapter also earlier is full of the highest knowledge. But these verses are full of the highest devotion, which is completely harmonious with the highest knowledge. So 57 says, Chetasa sarvakarmani maya sanyasya matparaha buddhi yoga mupashritya machitta satatam bhava. So this says, Chetasa sarvakarmani maya sanyasya matparaha. So this is having me as the highest goal, matparaha. Chetasa sarvakarmani maya sanyasya. And by the mind renouncing all actions in me, that is, whatever we do, renouncing them to God, that I do this only for you. I don't care for the results. This is my worship of you, and I do it only because it's there to be done. And it is my worship of you who are the source of this dynamic universe. So having me as the highest goal, and mentally renouncing all actions in me, in Sri Krishna, in God, buddhi yoga mupashritya, having taken recourse to the yoga of wisdom, buddhi yoga. So again, this is a combination of the highest knowledge and the highest devotion. Machitta satatam bhava. Be eternal, unite your mind eternally or continually with me. Machitta satadam bhava. Have your mind united to me always. So the running translation goes, mentally dedicating all actions to me, or renouncing all actions in me, and accepting me as the supreme, matparaha. Have your mind ever fixed on me, matchitta, by resorting to the yoga of wisdom. So again, this is actually, it's combining karma yoga, bhakti yoga, and jnana yoga. You could, if you wanted, to bring in Raja Yoga also, but there's no necessity to complicate things by trying to stretch the significance too much. So very clearly, the paths of knowledge, devotion, and action are all combined beautifully here. So dedicating all actions to me, or renouncing all actions in me, it means the same thing. So renouncing all actions in me means renouncing the desire for the fruits of the actions. I do it because it's there to be done. But I don't care. Whatever comes as the fruit of the action, I give to you. Now, how is that possible? How is it possible to give up the desire for the fruits of action? Because we do everything with a selfish motivation. Everything, literally everything. Getting up in the morning, we first have to think, why am I going to get up? And for many people, that's a huge problem. Why should I get up? I don't want to get up. There's nothing, life holds nothing for me. I'm depressed. I don't see a future for myself. Why should I get out of bed? So those of us who can get out of bed, we hold something in front of ourselves. I have to get out because of this, because I have to do this for this reason. And then that's the way the day starts. And everything that we do, I'm doing this because I want this to happen. And so everything is motivated by a desire. And yet here he's saying, giving up all actions into me, that is remaining active, but giving up the idea of the fruits of action, doing them just because they are there. So the secret, one of the secrets to that, there are different ways of approaching this, but the secret of this, in consonance with the thought that he's giving right now, is that as you develop stronger and stronger devotion to God. In the beginning, it's impossible, but as you get strong devotion to God, you want to give up everything for God. You still have to do that which has to be done because you can't live a life of inaction. It's not even possible, even if you want to. So you have to do that which is in front of you that has to be done. But that's no longer your motivation. You're disgusted with everything except for God. And disgusted may seem like a strong term. And so we usually don't talk about that. But you can see that in people like Swami Vivekananda. Swamiji had had the highest experience, the Nirvikalpa Samadhi. But then Sri Ramakrishna drew a veil over his mind so that he could complete his work, Sri Ramakrishna's work, and said, you won't be able to go back to that state until you have finished the mother's work, which meant Sri Ramakrishna's work. And so you see in Swami Vivekananda this tremendous activity, this tremendous dedication, this knowledge that of sacrificing himself for the welfare of all beings. But at the same time, you see in his letters and elsewhere this tremendous desire to throw the whole thing away, just to immerse himself in God. And so that comes as devotion becomes more intense. You still have to do what you have to do, but you don't care about that. You do it only because it's there and it has to be done. But that's not what I'm here for. That's not what I want. I want to attain to God. And so it takes the form of a disgust for everything else. And don't take that in the way that we feel disgust for something that, oh, it's nasty, it's dirty, I don't like that. No, not like that. Just in no sense that everything is unworthy, everything is dirty, everything is nasty. Not that kind of disgust, but just I don't want anything but God, nothing but God. Let me do what I have to do, and let me do it well, because that's the only way that I can purify my mind. So I'll do it well, but I don't care about that for its own sake. No, I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want it. I only want God. And so it's when we begin to feel higher devotion, then alone we begin to understand things like this. But where we beginners in spiritual life, as we all are, where we are now, we can begin to understand just by understanding that that's how that sense of renouncing all actions in me and God, how that can come about. Otherwise, it's a great mystery. So mentally dedicating all actions to me, or mentally renouncing all fruits of actions in me, and accepting me as the supreme, matparaha. Have your mind ever fixed on me by resorting to the yoga of wisdom, buddhi yoga. So buddhi, again, the highest part of the mind, and so buddhi yoga, the yoga of the what's often called intellect, but as I always say, not really well translated by intellect, but by the highest determinative part of the mind. So using the highest intelligence, the highest part of the mind, to fix your mind on me. So again, combining knowledge and devotion, or where the two come together as one impulse, then renouncing all actions in me, with your mind fixed on me, resorting to buddhi yoga. Have your mind fixed on me. So then what do we get from that, from doing what he just says? Then we come to 58. Matchitta sarvadurgani matprasadatharishyasi atachetva mahankaran nashroshasi vinakshyasi. So matchitta sarvadurgani matprasadat tarishyasi. So with your mind fixed on me, you will, out of my grace, you will cross over all difficulties, durgani, the difficulties. Mat prasadat, by my grace, you will cross over all difficulties if you have your mind fixed in me. And so that's the promise of all great world teachers, and the promise of all great saints. Saints, great saints, illumined souls, they don't say by fixing your mind on me, they say by fixing your mind on God, on the divine. But the avatars, the great incarnations of God, they say fixing your mind on me. As Jesus says in various ways, beautiful ways in the Christian gospel, the same idea. That take up your cross and follow me. That my burden is light, he says, Jesus says. And so come unto me, all ye who are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. So that same idea here, Sri Krishna is saying that mat chitta sarva durgani mat prasadat tarishyasi. Fixing your mind on me, you won't lose anything. It's not that by fixing your mind on me, you're going to miss out on the party and all of the fun everybody else is having. No. If you fix your mind on me, on God, then you'll realize that no, people aren't really having fun. People aren't having fun, and I was never having fun. I tried to pretend I was having fun, and it was a distraction which made me think I was free from my problems for the time being. But no, it wasn't really fun. So if I fix my mind on God, then by God's grace, I cross over all difficulties. Then it seems as if we are being swept through life, and the difficulties pass us by how we don't even know. And so, again, having your mind fixed on me, you will cross over all difficulties through my grace. Mat prasadat, by my grace. Ata chet tvam ahankarat na shroshasi. But if due to your egotism, you don't listen to me, this advice that I'm giving you, which I'm giving you because I love you, because you are my devotee, and I sincerely love you, and I'm giving it to you for your own good, not because it benefits me, but for your good. But if you don't listen to this advice of mine, vinakshasi, you will be destroyed. So if, on the other hand, you do not listen out of egotism, you will perish, vinakshasi. So if you listen and if you fix your mind on me, then by my grace you will cross all difficulties. But if you don't listen to me because of your egotism, I can do it myself. What do I need God for? I can take care of myself. Who needs God? Then you will perish. And so again, that's not a curse. Sri Krishna isn't cursing Arjuna or others who don't listen to him, that we should take that mind completely, or that idea completely out of the mind. He's just stating a fact, an objective fact, not a curse at all. Sri Krishna had no curse for anyone. But if you fix your mind on me, fix your mind on God, then I, God, will save you from all difficulties. But if you don't listen to me, then you'll be destroyed, not because I curse you, but because you have given up your hold on reality itself. You have ignored the supreme reality. And then you'll be destroyed means you'll have to continue your cycles of birth and death endlessly. Being born as a child, going through all of the insecurities of childhood, all of the limitations of childhood. We idealize childhood, and for a reason, because we recognize the purity and the innocence of children, and that's a good thing. But childhood is not an ideal state. Children have so many limitations, so many insecurities, so many fears, so much confusion about who they are, what the world is, etc. So many anxieties children have. And so it's not an ideal state. And so if we want to continue whirling through samsara lifetime after lifetime, just think about that, what it means. Coming back as a child, all of the insecurities, all of the difficulties of growing up, going to school again, being the worst age most people can remember is being around 13 years old. That's the worst time for almost everybody. When you're so insecure about yourself, you don't know who you are, you're extremely socially shy and uncomfortable. So you have to go through that again. And then you have to go through the young adulthood and getting a profession and all of the insecurities, and then old age and sickness and death and all of those things you have to go over again and again. It's a strange thing about memory that when we remember things, we tend to remember the good times. And in a way, that's a blessing, because otherwise we would be depressed all the time. but so it's good that we remember the good times, and that allows the good times to carry us forward better. But when we really think about what life was like before at different stages of our life, do we want to go through that again? Do we really want to go through all of that again? Children are so optimistic if they have a stable home and everything. Children are so optimistic. Why? Not because they are having an ideal time as children, but because life is in front of them, calling to them and saying, here I am, come, come, we'll have a good time, come, grow up, and then you'll be free and you can do whatever you want. But what happens when we grow up? We find how difficult life is, how very difficult it is, and how, yes, there's happiness in life, lots of happiness in life, but there's more pain and suffering in life than happiness. And so do we really want to go through all of that again? So, having your mind fixed on me, you will cross over all of the difficulties through my grace. If, on the other hand, you do not listen to my words out of egotism, out of your sense of self-sufficiency, you will perish. Again, not because I'm cursing you, but because that's the nature of life. And perish means you'll be drowned in the ocean of samsara. Not literally drowned so that you die, but you'll drown in the waters of the samsara, meaning you can't find your way out. Just coming back again and again and again and again and again and again, going through all of the difficulties that we've had in this life. So that's why it's said that only when one has gone through enough experiences, life after life after life, a sense comes, I don't want this anymore. I don't want it anymore. So if even a little of that has awakened in us, then that's a great thing. That's a great thing. Most people, especially in the West, people who like the idea of incarnation, oftentimes they like it because they think, oh, good, I can have even more of this. After this life, I can come back and do all kinds of other things and have all kinds of other fun experiences and do all kinds of crazy things that I will enjoy so much. So I can keep coming back and have more chances to enjoy and to experience and to do things, to grab life. No, no. Maturity comes when we think, no, I've had enough. I've had enough. I don't want more of this. I want to come to reality. I want to come to that which is true, that which is eternal, that which is ever blissful, full of knowledge, full of bliss, full of blessedness. That's what I want. I've had enough of this. So then, verse 59, he says, Yadahankara mashritya nayosya iti manyase mithya eva vyavasayaste prakritistvam niyokshasi. So yad ahankaram ashritya. If having resorted to your own ego, your own sense of self-sufficiency, or to egotism, or ego, your sense of self-sufficiency, nayotsya iti manjase, you think, I won't fight. So if resorting to your own egotism, that I'm going to make my own decision and I won't fight, remember that's the decision Arjuna had stated in chapters 1 and the beginning of chapter 2. Or he says, "Nayotsya iti," I won't fight. He himself had said that, I won't fight, because he saw his kinsmen and his teachers on the other side of the battlefield and realized that he would have to engage with them in battle, trying to kill each other. And his heart fell, and he couldn't do it. And so he said, I won't fight. So Sri Krishna, from chapter 2, verse 2, until now, Sri Krishna has been telling him why he has to fight, why he has to engage in the battle of life. So here he's saying that if out of egotism, or if you resort to self-sufficiency of your own ego, you think, I won't fight, mitya eva vyavasayaste. That decision of yours is in vain. Mitya eva, false indeed, or in vain, and it would come together in English. That if resorting to self-sufficiency you think, I won't fight, then vain indeed is your decision not to fight. Vain indeed. Why? Prakritis tvam niyokshasi. Your nature, your prakriti, your nature will force you to do it. Your nature will force you to do it. That's a great truth that we have to understand, and a difficult one to understand, especially for those of us brought up in Western culture, where we're taught to be self-sufficient, and where we are taught that we can do anything that we want to do. Now that has its good points. I'm not saying that that's completely bad. No, it has a very good side to it, but it's immature, and the immaturity leads to problems. And that is what he's saying, that your very nature will force you to do it, even though you say out of egotism that I won't fight. No, your very nature will force you to do it. Sri Ramakrishna used to give the story of the man who got upset with his wife. He and his wife had an argument over something, and it was a contest of wills. The man saying, I'm going to do this, and the wife saying, no, you're not going to do it, and so forth. One of those common quarrels in marriage. And so the man got disgusted. And so he said, well, I'm going to renounce the world and go off as a sadhu. So obviously this is an Indian story, because no one in America thinks of doing that. but he said, I'm going to go off and be a sadhu. I'm going to renounce hearth and home and give you up and the children and everybody. I'm going off to lead a life of meditation. I don't need you. And so he went to Benares. And after 6 months, he wrote a letter to his wife saying, please bundle up the children and all of our belongings. I've started a shop here in Benares. So he left home thinking that I'm going to be a sadhu, because he was disgusted with his wife. But his nature being what it was, he wasn't ready for renunciation. And so he goes to Benares, and what else is he going to do? So he starts a little shop, a little business, because what else is he going to do? He's not ready for sannyasa. And so whatever our nature is, we can change our nature. We can change our nature, but that takes time. So until we change our nature, that which we are is going to assert itself. So no, it's not determinism, because we can gradually change our nature. But what we are right now is going to assert itself until we change ourselves, and change can take a long, long time. It can take a lifetime to change ourselves. Or sometimes it takes another life before a major change is possible. But we shouldn't think about that. We can change. That depends on our application and our earnestness. We can change in this very life. But until we change, our nature asserts itself. So that you think thus, I shall not fight, relying on egotism, vain is this determination of yours. Your nature will impel you to fight, meaning your nature will impel you to fight. Because you have been trained as a warrior, your whole nature is that. You have been trained for the protection of society. All of the values that have been taught to you, everything has directed you in this direction. And now just because you see difficulties in front of you, you see the difficulties confronting you in the fulfillment of your natural duty, you suddenly say, no, I'm not going to fight. Well, that won't work. Your nature will impel you to fight. And this is illustrated in many beautiful ways in the stories of Indian lore, Hindu lore, and the Puranas and other texts, the Itihasas and Puranas, etc. Uh, uh, who was it? Was it Karna? I think it was Karna. Someone bore great pain without flinching, without showing any pain on their face. And it was thought that they were of a low caste. But then the person realized you have to be a kshatriya, because only a kshatriya could bear pain like that. Because a kshatriya was trained to be a warrior and to be equal in all physical circumstances, something that warriors even today have to do if they're going to actually be warriors. One has to train oneself to endure pain, to endure deprivation, etc. And so that's why we have in different militaries around the world, we have the equivalent of boot camp, as we call it here, because one has to be trained in that type of bravery, that type of fearlessness in the face of battle, and that ability to bear pain and continue doing that which you have to do even in the midst of pain. And you see that with athletes, especially in contact sports, where injuries happen. You find many cases we know of, both even at the high school or college level, what to speak of professional sports, where someone has a serious injury, but they continue playing in spite of the injury and in spite of the pain, just because that determination. So, so your nature will impel you to fight. So then verse 60 says, Swabhavajena kaunteya nibaddha swena karmana kartum nechasi yan mohat karishyasya avashopitat. So swabhavajena kaunteya nibaddha swena karmana swena swabhavajena karmana nibaddha kaunteya. O Kaunteya, that is Arjuna, son of Kunti. O Arjuna, nibaddha, bound, being bound by your swena karmana, by your own karma, swabhava jena, born from your own nature. So the karma, the duty, which is your own, swena karmana, by your own duty, swabhava jena, which is born of your own nature. Why is it your duty to be a warrior? Because that was the nature you were born with. You were born with the tendency of a warrior. And so bound by the nature of your own karma, kartum nechasi yan mohat, if you out of delusion wish to not perform that duty, karishyas yavashopitat, you will be forced to do it. So again, continuing the thought of 59. So it's the running translation is, being bound by your own duty born of nature, O son of Kunti, you being helpless will verily do that which you do not wish to do owing to indiscrimination. So you will do that which you do not wish to do. Oh yes, so that yet mohat kartum nechasi, that which due to delusion you do not wish to do, karishyasi avashopitat, you will be forced to do. So that which you do not wish to do because of delusion, your own delusion, you will be forced to do. Again, that is one of the ideas in the Gita which is stressed over and over again, is the idea of swadharma, that which is your natural duty. And as I've explained on various occasions in the past, in this class, that in traditional times that was defined by the circumstances of your birth. And again, as I've explained on occasion, that was true all over the world to some extent. And so in traditional times, the circumstances of your birth determined most of the parameters of your life, your social life, your marriage life, your family life, etc., your work life, etc. And so Sri Krishna talks about your swadharma, your natural duty, which comes from what? Swabhavaja, which is born of your own nature. So the nature that you have determines your own duty. And so, as I've said also in past classes, including very recently, in modern times where we have much more freedom than ever before in society to choose whatever we want, the problem for people has come to be that I don't know what my duty is. I don't know what I should do. And so many people lead their lives thinking that I've never found what it is I'm supposed to do. I just doing that which is that which I had to do, but I don't have a feeling of having fulfilled anything, any purpose. I don't know why I'm here, what I'm supposed to do, what work I'm supposed to do. I just feel lost. And so in the modern times, we have to find that which is according to my own nature. We have to find that which is consistent with my nature. Some people are very fortunate. There are people that I know who, like one person I know who said that from the time she was 9 years old, she knew that she wanted to be an artist, and so she became an artist. There are people like Mozart, who from the time he was a little child, he started writing wonderful music. And so it was a clear path forward for him. He had a father who was a composer and a musician, and his own tendencies manifested themselves in very early childhood. And so there was he had an obvious swadharma, which was swabhavaja, born of his own nature. Others of us have a harder time finding what is my place in life, but we can do that because each of us has a swabhava, our own nature, which fits with a swadharma, our own duty within life, that which is our natural place within life. So, and then we come to 61, which was a verse that Swami Vivekananda often quoted, especially during his second trip to America. When he was in California, he was often heard quoting this verse. And that is, Ishvara sarvabhutanam hriddeshe arjuna tishtati Brahmayan sarvabhutani yantrarudhani bhamayaya. So Ishvara sarvabhutanam hriddeshe Arjuna tishtati. God is established in the region of the heart of all beings. So God, Ishvara, the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Being, sits in the, or resides, tishtati, resides within the hriddesha, within the region of the heart, sarvabhutanam, of all beings. So that's the basic Vedantic teaching. Nothing unusual about that. God exists within the hearts of all beings. Brahmayan sarvabhutani yantrarudhani mayaya. Spinning everyone around, revolving everyone around as if they were mounted on a machine. Spinning them around by his own Maya, power of delusion, as if they were mounted on a machine. So the running translation is, O Arjuna, the Lord resides in the region of the heart of all creatures, revolving through Maya all creatures as though they were mounted on a machine. So that's a very strange verse, and it seems strange at first that Swami Vivekananda would have been thinking of this, or it wasn't that he was thinking over it, it was his realization at that time. He would, it was in the forefront of his mind, especially on his second trip, especially it seems when he was in California. That God, seated in the hearts of all beings, spins them around through the power of his Maya, as if we were mounted on a machine. And so the hopeful note will come in the next verse, but this is a very despairing note. The idea that we're mounted like on a machine and God is just spinning us around. But that's what we experience. That's what we experience. We all feel as if we're just spinning around in this world of samsara, that we're spinning meaninglessly around, forced out of delusion by Maya, to just spin around in this world of endlessly and meaninglessly. We find meaning in life. We find meaning in life, thank God. We find little meanings in life, but eventually we find that those meanings are insignificant. And then when we realize that, then we really feel helpless. We feel that, no, I'm just being spun around to no end, for no purpose, just being spun around. And God, seated within the heart, is spinning me around. So that's a very hopeless thought. Luckily, Sri Krishna doesn't leave us there, but that's a very hopeless thought. So why would Swami Vivekananda have been absorbed in that, the thought behind that verse at that time in California, when he was teaching the highest Vedanta, teaching people to stand on the glory of the self, to take a stand and to realize the self. An appeal to everyone to be strong, to face the difficulties of life. So why would he have been thinking and reciting this verse that God, seated in the hearts of all, spins us around through the power of his Maya? Because he saw that that was the condition, that the truth is there in front of all of us, and yet we don't see it, and we're just spinning around endlessly. Why? Because we're deluded by Maya. And where does Maya come from? Maya is of God. Maya is the power of God. And so God, seated within our hearts, is spinning us around endlessly. And so then what to do? What to do? Then he comes to verse 62. Tameva sharanam gaccha sarva bhavena bharata tat prasadat param shantim sthanam prapsyasi shashvatam. So here he says, yes, God is seated in the heart and spins us around endlessly through Maya, as if we were mounted on a machine, just going round and round to no purpose. But tameva sharanam gaccha sarva bhavena bharata. O Bharata, O scion of the Bharata dynasty, O descendant of the Bharata dynasty, tameva sharanam gaccha sarva bhavena. Go to him alone, take refuge in him alone, in all ways, sarva bhavena. In all ways, go to him alone to take refuge. But he's the one seated in the heart making me spin around. We have no choice. If we take refuge in him, then tat prasadat param shantim, by his grace, tat prasadat, by his grace, param shantim sthanam prapsyasi shashvatam, you will prapsyasi, you will attain to that state, sthanam, that state which is shantim shashvatam, which is eternal peace. So take refuge in him in all ways, because by his grace you will attain to that state which is eternal peace. So we have no choice, and that's what Swami Vivekananda would say. We have no choice. God has us mounted on a machine, spinning us round and round and round. But the hopeful note is that by taking refuge in him in all ways, then we get out of this, we escape this machine. We escape this delusion which spins the machine, and we attain to the realm of eternal peace, eternal blessedness, eternal bliss. So let us take refuge in God in all ways. In all ways means just thinking of nothing else but taking refuge in God. And 63 says, Iti te jnanamakyatam guhya guhyataram maya vimrishyaitad asheshena yatechasi tatha kuru. Iti te jnanamakyatam maya, which is guhyad guhyatam taram. So thus, by me has been declared to you, te jnanam guhyad guhyataram, the knowledge which is the most secret of all secret things. So I have, putting it in the active voice, which is more natural in English, thus I have declared to you this knowledge which is more secret than all secret things. Why secret? Not because somebody has kept it a secret from us, but because we never look in that direction. We're so enamored of the world that we don't think of looking anywhere else. This looks so delightful, it looks so enticing, it looks so promising. Why would we look anywhere else? And so the highest truth remains as the most secret of all secret things because we're not interested. And so thus has been declared by me this the knowledge which is the most secret of all secret things. Vimrishya etad asheshena, having pondered over this completely, asheshena, without any residue, that is completely, having thought over, having pondered this truth that I have told you completely, yatha ichasi tatha kuru, do as you wish. Yatha ichasi, as you wish, tatha kuru, do accordingly. So in this way, to you has been fully imparted by me the knowledge that is more secret than any secret thing. Pondering over this completely, do as you like. So do as you like, that means after pondering over this completely, that is, nobody can force us to, even God doesn't force us to do what we don't want to do. If God comes to you in a vision and you turn your back to it and run away from it, as people sometimes do, then it's your loss. God doesn't force his vision on us. And so ponder over this carefully and then do as you like. But if he says that because he knows that if Arjuna ponders over this carefully and completely, then he'll know that which is right. But we have to do it. So it's not that Sri Krishna can tell us and we do it because Sri Krishna told us. No, we have to think it over and then we have to say, no, this is what I want, and then we have to follow it. That has to come from inside. It can't be enforced from outside, even by God. We have to come to that determination that, yes, I've thought about it completely, thoroughly, and now I know that's what I want to do. So now I'm going to go in that direction. That has to come from the inside. And then we come to 64. Well, let me say again on the last part, pondering over yatechasi tathakuru, then do as you like. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, tie the knowledge of non-dualism in the corner of your cloth and then do as you like. So it's a similar idea. Once you have understood the idea of non-dualism, then do as you like. Because if you have understood that thoroughly, then what you like will be in accordance with the truth. But do as you like, that same idea. So 64 says, Sarvaguhyatamam bhuya shrinu me paramam vachaha ishtosi me dridhamiti tato vakshyami te hitam. So sarvaguhyatamam bhuyaha shrinu me paramam vachaha. So here again, my supreme word, my supreme teaching, which is sarvaguhyatamam, the most secret of all things, or as he translates it here, which is good, the profoundest of all things. Profound means what? So deep that that it's difficult to get to it. So deep that it's almost incomprehensible. And so in that sense, Guhyatamam, the greatest secret, indicates that it's the most profound of truths. So listen again to my highest utterance, which is the profoundest of all. Ishtosi me dridhamiti. You are the dearest to me. You are dear to me. Dridham, you are very dear to me. Tato vakshyami te hitam. Therefore, I say this for your good. So the running translation, listen again to my highest utterance, which is the profoundest of all. Since you are very much dear to me, therefore I shall speak what is beneficial to you. Vakshyami te hitam, that which is good for you, that which is beneficial to you. And then in 65, he says, Manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vaishyasi satyam te pratijane priyosi me. So here Sri Krishna makes a promise to Arjuna, as he has done before in the Gita. So manmana bhava mad bhakto, manmana bhava, join your mind to me. Have your mind fixed in me, manmana, matmana, your mind fixed in me, bhava. Have your mind fixed in me. Madbhakto, be my devotee. Madhyaji, be my worshipper. Mam namaskuru, bow down to me. Mame vaishyasi satyam te pratijane priyosi me. You are very dear to me, priyosi me, and therefore I promise, te pratijane, I promise you, mame vaishyasi satyam, you truly will come to me. So the running translation, have your mind fixed on me, manmana bhava. Be my devotee, madbhakto, be my worshipper, madhyaji, and bow down to me, mam namaskuru. Thus you will come to me alone, mame vaishyasi. This truth do I promise you, for you are dear to me. So here Sri Krishna, as all through the Gita, he's speaking to us through Arjuna. We are Arjuna. And so Sri Krishna is speaking to us through Arjuna. Arjuna stands in for all of us. So have your mind fixed on me. Keep your mind dedicated to God. Fix your mind as often as you can on God. Be my devotee, be my worshiper, and bow down to me. And doing those things is how we learn to fix our mind on God. By developing devotion, being a devotee of God, worshiping God, bowing down to God, gradually we learn to fix the mind in God. And thus you will come to me alone. Mame vaishyasi. Satyam te. You'll come to me alone. Te pratijane priyosi me. This truth I promised to you because you were dear to me. And then verse 66, which is perhaps the most famous verse in the Gita. There are two or three verses which I've said this is probably the most famous verse in the Gita, and so there's several candidates for that honor of being the most famous verse in the Gita, and this is one of two or three that is a candidate to be the most famous verse in the Gita. So 66 says, Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tva sarvapapebhyo mokshayishyami ma shuchaha. So sarvadharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. Having renounced all other dharmas, that is, having renounced all other senses of duty, or all other sense of duty, all other things that you must do. Mam ekam sharanam vraja. Seek refuge in me alone. So when we come to the point where we can seek refuge in God alone, then all other senses of duty disappears. we may still do that which is in front of us as a duty. It may look like we are very sincere in doing our duties and fulfilling our responsibilities and things, but that's just because now the mind is so fixed on God that we don't care about anything else. And so it becomes much easier to do that which is in front of me that needs to be done, because I don't care about anything else except for getting to God. And so I have such a person has no conflicts in the mind. No, there's only one thing that I want. So abandoning all forms of rights and duties, take refuge in me alone. Aham tva sarva papebhyo mokshishyami ma shucha. So I will save you, liberate you from all sin. Sarva papebhyo mokshishyami. I will liberate you from all sin. I will liberate you from all evil. Ma shucha, don't worry, don't grieve. So Arjuna had been grieving, seeing on the battlefield his relatives and his teachers. He was full of grief, thinking, how am I to fight them? I can't fight them. But here Sri Krishna is saying that I shall free you from all sin. Don't grieve, don't lament. So the running translation, abandoning all forms of rights and duties, take refuge in me alone. I shall free you from all sin. Don't lament, don't grieve. So that is again one of the most famous verses in the Gita, because this is Sri Krishna's promise. And so all great teachers have given a promise like this. You may say, well, what about Buddhism? Buddha said, Atmadipo bhava, be a light unto yourself. And so yes, Buddha was a teacher who emphasized self-reliance. But in the Buddhist tradition, the larger Buddhist tradition, as they developed the idea of the bodhisattva, and the cosmic Buddhas, the Buddhas that had come before Gautama Buddha, the historical Buddha, they developed the same idea that there are these cosmic beings, bodhisattvas and Buddhas, cosmic Buddhas, who give the same promise. And so you find that Amitabha Buddha, Amida Butsu in Japanese, I forget the Chinese name for him, but Amitabha Buddha, he made a promise that whoever recites my name, I will take them to the Western paradise, where they'll live. It's like Brahma Loka. It is Brahma Loka. Live in a deeply spiritual state of meditation, where it said, in order to give that idea, to give some idea to the mind, it says that even the birds in the Western paradise sing mantras. And every grain of sand on the beach in the Western paradise is a jewel, a precious jewel, which reflects the whole cosmos within it. So every grain of sand is like a jewel which reflects the whole cosmos within it. Every truth is within every jewel of sand. And so the idea is that one lives in a highly spiritual world which is full of the highest enlightenment. So even in Buddhism, you have this idea of the bodhisattvas and the Buddhas who promise to help all beings across. Why that? Well, first, before I answer that, let me say that this is the purpose of the incarnation of God. The incarnation of God comes to make liberation, freedom, enlightenment accessible to all of us. By taking refuge in them, we can come to the highest truth. And this is the truth embedded in the Christian idea of, if you believe in Jesus and you surrender to Jesus, then you'll be saved. Now, the way that the Christian churches have dealt with that is to make a mockery of the truth contained within it. To say that only if you believe in Jesus you'll be saved, and believing in Jesus means something which is a very weak sort of acceptance of Jesus as my Savior. Of course, the great mystics of Christianity were different, but the common idea and the idea taught by the churches is a perversion of the truth. But the truth is that, yes, by accepting Jesus, by depending on Jesus, yes, I can attain to enlightenment, I can attain to freedom. Jesus has given that promise in the Bible, but so has Krishna in the Gita. So have the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the Buddhist scriptures. So has Rama. So have all of the great incarnations of God. That they have given that promise that by taking refuge in them, they will take us across to the other side. And so that's the very purpose of the incarnation. The very purpose of God's incarnation is to make that easy. It can come without the incarnation. It can come through self-effort. It can come through meditation. It can come through spiritual practice, through vichara, through self-inquiry, and so forth. But the incarnation makes it accessible in a way for us who are incapable of doing the tremendous practice, dedicated practice, which self-effort takes in order to go beyond illusion, makes it accessible to us. And so through devotion, we can attain to that which otherwise would take eons of unassisted self-effort. So abandoning all forms of rights and duties, take refuge in me alone. I shall free you from all sins. Hence, do not grieve, do not lament. So we'll stop here for tonight. Next week, I'll probably say a little bit more or re-emphasize the ideas in this last verse and maybe the last 2 or 3 verses, and then the concluding verses of chapter 18, which there are a number of verses, but most of them are what's called in Sanskrit arthavada, which means eulogy. That is, they are to eulogize the teachings of the Gita, so they don't take that much commentary. So if there's any question, I'll take 1 or 2 questions, and then let me give announcements while Surenji brings the phone to me if there are. Are there any questions, Surenji? Okay, okay, so bring it here. The announcements. On Thursday, we will not have the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna class this Thursday, the 11th, because Thursday is Shiva Ratri, the night sacred to Shiva. And so people will be fasting and preparing for the nighttime worship. And we will have worship here in the temple, which will be live streamed. People will not be able to come for the puja. Hopefully next year, the Shivaratri will be open to all to come and participate. But this year, because of the remaining pandemic, it will be live streamed only. It'll start at 7 o'clock in the evening. And we'll only have 1 watch, as it's called, of worship. Usually there are 4 watches through the night, starting in the evening and then lasting until, with a break between each, up until about 4 o'clock in the morning. But we will do all of the offerings of all 4 watches in 1 watch. So at 7 o'clock until about 8:30. And then on Sunday, in place of the usual Sunday lecture, we will have the celebration of the birth anniversary of Sri Ramakrishna. This year, his birth anniversary falls on the 15th, Monday, but so that more people can attend, we will have it on Sunday. And so it will start at 10:30, and that will be live streamed, 10:30 until 12:15. And then at 12:15, those who wish can come here to the temple, come in, offer a flower, receive some prasad. And so that will be at 12:15 until 1:30. The temple will be open for people to come. And 1 family unit at a time will be allowed to come in, make their offering, and receive prasad, and then leave as another family comes in to do the same. So, and then the following week, our classes will continue as always. So, will there be next round of Bhagavad Gita course in the near future? The earlier chapters in this currently ending course are of lesser video quality. Yes, I'm sorry for that. The current video quality is very good. Yes, Jack, I don't know when I will return to another class on the Gita, but If I have the length of life to do it, certainly I will return to it, because this is one of the greatest scriptures in the Hindu tradition and one of the most useful scriptures in the Hindu tradition. And so, yes, I do apologize. Not only are many of the classes in this series, the early classes in this series, not only are many poor in quality, video quality, but many of them didn't even get recorded because of failures of the system. And so there are many that aren't even recorded, many of the early classes. So I'm sorry for that, but that's the nature of things. And so we're going to start the Upanishad class week after next. But eventually, yes, if I'm still alive, we will come back to the Gita. So let me give a closing chant. Om Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutastun Vandi Divyaistavai Vedai Sangapada Kramopanishadair Gayanti Yam Samagaha Dhyanavastita Tadgatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yogino Yasyandam navidu sura suragana devaya tasmai namaha. Om. We bow to that Supreme Being whom Brahma and other gods praise with divine hymns, whose glories the singers of the Sama hymns sing through the Vedas and Upanishads, whom the yogis see with their minds absorbed in that through meditation, and whose beginning and ending neither the gods nor the asuras know. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat. Om Peace, peace, peace be unto us all.